Ladies and gentlemen, guys and dolls, welcome to Pod Tiki. My name is Tony for another how-to video, and I certainly hope that you guys go back and listen to the episode before we make this drink. Or, if you haven't listened to the episode yet, please, I'm really I want to say I'm proud of this one, but I'm also very eager to see what you guys think, because this was a really tough episode, and I have to be honest with you, we're making a drink today. And we're making the standard International Bartenders Association agreed upon from around the popular zeitgeist, the milieu of this drink. We're making the standard version. It's not my favorite. My favorite version of the cocktail is actually something that's, you might say, it's a little bit ancestral. All right, but I don't want to tell the whole story. I want you guys to go listen to the podcast and figure out what I'm talking about, because there's about 3 versions of this drink that are all considered acceptable. I'm making the standard Sazerac today, and I'm making this version because the Sazerac is one of the only 4 cocktails that is trademarked by name. The Sazerac Company Incorporated owns the name Sazerac. So if you're wondering, Sazerac Whiskey, the Sazerac Bar in New Orleans, yes, all owned or rent or leased by Sazerac Company. So if you guys don't know about my feelings about trademarking cocktail names, honestly, I fall somewhere in the middle. But if you want to know the whole story, go back and check out the episode on the painkiller, which is one of the other 4. The 4th one, oddly enough, it's the painkiller, the Sazerac, the dark and stormy, and then the 4th one escapes me because it's some weird one that it's some green, it's something, some cocktail, like some college shooter thing. It's weird, I don't know. Anyway, we're making a Sazerac today, and it's still a pretty good cocktail in its own right. Let's go over the ingredients. There are a couple of things you have to have a Sazerac, no matter what version you're making. You need Herb Saint. Herb Saint is New Orleans' answer to absinthe. It was originally an absinthe substitute, but because it didn't contain wormwood, it wasn't allowed to be called absinthe, so they rebranded it as Herb Saint, which in French Creole means sacred herb, and it really is delicious. I mean, I love a good absinthe. I love a good absinthe substitute. Like, it's Herb Saint, Pernod, they're both really good. Whereas absinthe and Pernod are mainly French, Herb Saint is more of the French Creole Americanized version. Not really Americanized, but since French Creole is an American thing, it's kind of that thing. The other one is Peychaud's Bitters. Peychaud's also created by a Frenchman who came over here in the late 17, early 1800s. Peychaud's aromatic cocktail bitters were created as a tincture, or a medicinal tincture. More on that in the episode. Most bitters were. We're going to need some simple syrup. A lot of Sazerac cocktails will call for a sugar cube. That is the traditional way to make it, and I implore you to please try that. What you would do in that case is you would put the sugar cube in the glass, soak it with the bitters, and then muddle it. Problem with that is that it doesn't make a very good cocktail. It never dissolves truly into the drink, and when you transfer as we get to, when you transfer the cocktail into the rinsed glass, which we'll get to in a second, it never all comes over, and it especially if you're using a rye whiskey, you need that sugar in there to balance the cocktail, otherwise it just burns like the sting of rye whiskey. So we're going to use a sugar syrup. Also, the sugar syrup adds a little bit of a silky texture to the cocktail that really smooths it out, which again is necessary when you're using rye whiskey. Every time I need rye whiskey, I generally go towards Rittenhouse Rye. There's a lot of great ones out there. I like Bullet. I like what's the one Basil Hayden is really good. But I like Basil Hayden for sipping. It's a little bit of a milder rye. I don't know. I'm going off on a basil tangent here. I don't know why. Rittenhouse, it's usually, I would say 100 proof is a bit high proof for me. I like to stick more towards the 90 proof. But it really pops in a cocktail because it's strong enough to get that real rye bite to come through. So yeah, I mean, just smelling the rye whiskey has a very, very distinct, like, high-end kind of astringence to it that I really dig. So here's what we're going to do, folks. We are going to rinse a rocks glass, with herb saint. Now a rinse is pretty simple. You put about a quarter ounce of the herb saint in there, and you just want to rinse the inside of the glass with it. You know, you spin it around, however you want to do it. You just want to line the inside of the glass, and then we're going to set that aside and make our cocktail. This adds, you might think, well, that's not going to add enough flavor. It will. Look, it's like making a double-decker taco, right? You want to smear that bean on the inside of the flour tortilla, and then put just a little bit, just a sheer layer, before you put your hard shell in there and fold it over. Now, you might think, I love beans, I'm going to put more in there. But if you put a ton of beans in there, it's going to throw the whole texture of the taco off balance, and you're going to have a giant bean burrito with a little bit of meat in the middle. It's not going to be right. You have to have the right proportions. And with this cocktail, especially because Peychaud's bitters already has a little bit of anise flavor in it, which is what herb saint sort of is, anise and anisette. So it's going to add just a little bit on the outside, and it's going to sink into the cocktail, and it's going to have that kind of anisette numbing feeling, that cool numbing feeling on your tongue. Really good. You might think, well, if you put it aside and make your drink, it's going to all slide down the side. Actually, it doesn't. It's a pretty, it's a liqueur, so basically, it's thick, it's going to stick to the sides, and if it runs down to the bottom, it's going to get mixed in with the cocktails. It's fine. It's going to, it's kind of the point. So, one of the things that I find interesting is that the Sazerac company also owns herb saint. Now, I'm kind of thinking what they want you to do is pour a little bit of herb saint in the glass and then line it and toss it. Well, of course, the company that owns the product is going to incorporate waste into the making of a cocktail, which I think is kind of funny. So the more you make, the more you're wasting, the more you got to buy more. But anyway, I don't like throwing things away. Food waste has always been a major pet peeve of mine. So honestly, I try to put as little in there as possible while still being able to make it around. You don't want to skimp on it too much, and then you can't, you don't get all the way around. So about a quarter ounce, is going to do good. Now you can pick your own method of lining it. On this curved glass like this, one of the reasons why I use this cone-shaped glass is because I can spin it almost like a brandy snifter type thing, and it'll line the outside. If you want to, kind of tilt it and do that, it's fine, but however you want to do it. Some fancy bartenders can throw it up in the air and spin it, but you're going to get a nice ring of liquid around the inside. It's not going to be pretty all the time because it's going to have that kind of drippingness to it, and then you want to dispose of the leftover. Bartender wouldn't do that, but I'm drinking out of this glass, so. And then in a cocktail beaker, we're going to do 2 ounces of Rittenhouse rye, or whatever rye whiskey you prefer. We're going to do a 1/2 ounce of simple syrup. Now, just because you're using a syrup and not a cube doesn't mean you got to sacrifice quality. I make my simple syrup out of real, pure cane sugar, not granulated, white, bleached sugar. Raw cane sugar. You can get it at the grocery store. I use some from Florida, or I use it from Mexico. And you just do a 1-to-1 water-sugar mix. All you're really doing is changing the state from a solid to a liquid, and it adds a nice silkiness to it. It doesn't have a bunch of high fructose crap in it, nothing like that. We're going to add the Peychaud's bitters. Everything that says to add bitters usually says 2 dashes. 2 dashes is never enough bitters for me. I gotta put 4 dashes in. So we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4. It should have a nice reddish hue due to the bitters. The bitters. There is such a story behind this cocktail. A little bit of a background. The Creole French versus the American rye whiskey, that was a bit of contention. It goes all the way back to France, where the cognac was originally used, and the Sazerac name, and the cocktail glass, the cocotier that it was made in, and all that kind of factors in. We talk about the history of the term cocktail, where that came from. So this episode spans more than just the Sazerac. We talk about a lot of stuff, and I really am excited to hear you guys' input on that. And guess what? I didn't forget the ice today. I actually brought the ice with me. So we're going to put the ice in there. All right. Stir this up. My basic rule is to stir it until the glass starts to frost over. Sazerac is very temperamental when it comes to dilution. You have to dilute it because a true cocktail is one drink that contains spirits, bitters, sugar, and water. Now, in modern parlance, the modern day, the water, the ice consists of is the water. But we stir it with the ice to dilute it and kind of blend everything together. Water, it's the giver of life. Like, why would you not? Now, I usually go a little bit extra on a rye Sazerac because the rye bite gets me. I like it a little bit more diluted. You dilute to taste. It's up to you. We're going to strain that into our glass here. And you see it's got a nice kind of amber hue to it. Reddish amber hue. Now, I'm supposed to garnish this with a lemon peel. I prefer to use a twist because I think the lemon peel is way too lemony. Like, it's too much for me. If I'm going to use a peel, usually I just express it and toss it. I will use a twist because you get the scent without being too overbearing. But I digress. None of that matters because when I sat down to set up to make this episode today, I literally was just at the store getting other stuff and forgot to grab lemons. So we're not doing any lemon zest in here today. We're just going to do it garnishless. It's nude. It's the nuded version. The denuded version. Nude Sazerac. All right. Now, I make this for my wife. She tells me it's too sweet. You got to back off. Half ounce is too much simple. But I don't generally drink rye, especially not rye this strong. So I like that sweetness in there. I like the dilution in there. You can adjust it to your own liking. If you order at a bar, they're probably going to use a half ounce, just so you know. The rye and the sweetness go together, pop. You get the, you can taste the bitters in there, and then as it starts to fade back on the finish, they call it, you get the herb saint kind of coming through. And I say kind of because here we get into what I talk about in the podcast. One of the reasons why this is not my favorite version is because I don't necessarily think that herb saint and rye whiskey go great together. I like the flavor of herb saint. I like the flavor of absinthe and anisette, but it gets hidden behind such a strong spirit. The other version of this, my favorite version, is made with cognac brandy. That is superb. All you do is swap out the rye whiskey for a cognac, and all of a sudden the flavors blend together like a ambrosia from the gods. But I talk about that in the episode. I don't want to go too much into it right now because this is the official way to make the trademarked drink called a Sazerac. So, in the episode, I talk about what I think the brandy version should be called. It should have its own thing. I explain it better in depth there, so please go check that out. This is not a bad drink. It's just, look, I don't think I've ever gotten on here and talked poorly about a cocktail, right? I mean, they're all drinks. They're all, like, it's, even a pizza that's not that great is still a pizza, right? It's pretty good. This is not a bad drink. It's tasty. I'm going to sit and finish it. In fact, I'm going to go record an episode of Inside the Mug and finish the same drink. But, especially with the rye whiskey, it is a, and I say this in the episode, and I don't mind spoiling it, I'll say it here. To me, a Sazerac with rye whiskey is a old-fashioned that's trying too hard. It's a try-hardy old-fashioned. It's just, if you want a drink that tastes like this, the best version of it is going to be an old-fashioned. if you want a drink that melds Peychaud's bitters and herb saint and that anise flavor with a fine, well-aged spirit, go for the brandy version. You can't really taste the New Orleans in here. If you use brandy, the New Orleans comes out. This again tastes like a bro fashion, like a bro version of the old fashioned, like an old fashioned that's trying too hard. It's a bro fashion. Again, not bad, just too similar to a drink that already exists. So that's my take on a Sazerac. The drink is not my favorite, but the story behind it is amazing. And there is a version of this drink that is my favorite if you make it with the cognac. There's also a version that does a 50-50 split. I talk about that in the episode, my thoughts on that. I get why they're doing it, but again, to me it's futile. It's just, there's already the brandy version is so good. Why try to mess with it with the rye whiskey? And I'm not just saying that because I don't usually drink rye whiskey. I can appreciate rye whiskey. In fact, there are some out of my collection, like ryes are some of my favorite, especially the aforementioned Basil Hayden and Rittenhouse, and the Woodford Reserve rye is really good. But there are certain bourbons or certain whiskeys that I prefer as a rye, but just they're not. It's a very strong acquired taste kind of whiskey. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. Looks like we got, I don't know how long we're going here. It looks like you might have got more than 2 cents. You might have got 3 cents or maybe even 5 cents. So anyway, that's my time for today. Make sure you check out Pod Tiki across social media. That's really the best way to get a hold of me. Pod Tiki on Instagram. We are at pod_tiki. My personal page is at rum_poet. You can find Pod Tiki on Instagram. You can please follow us on YouTube. We're really close to having enough people to go live. I really want to go live with you guys. What else? Surfside Sips if you want your custom glass straws, your tiki ware, or just something for the family to travel with. A nice set of 4 or 5 straws for the family with a nice case. Go to surfsidesips.com. Andrew's a great guy. He's always supported the podcast. So let's support him. And if you put in Pod Tiki at checkout, PODTIKI, all caps, all one word, then you will get 20% off, and I can support you in your endeavor. And then he knows that you came here, that you heard it here. You heard it here first, guys. So do that and check out Pod Tiki, the podcast. That's really that's my money maker, guys. So check that out, and I keep commenting and let me know what's going on with you. Summer's coming, and there's some big news dropping probably in a few weeks. I keep talking about it. I had a meeting today, and things are looking like it's gonna happen. Looking forward to the first day of summer, let's just say that. So until then, keep your tiki out there, and I am going to have a not tiki drink, but I might have this and then switch to a tiki drink later. Who knows? I don't know. The world is my oyster. It's a Monday night. It's a Monday night here in Nashville, and so you never know what's gonna happen. I should have lied and said it was Saturday. Nobody would have known. Nobody would have known that. Like, what am I gonna? It's a Monday. Yeah, Sacre Blue.